Hello guys, it's me Simo Urahara, and in this video we will talk about the upgraded Bankai that appeared in the Quincy arc or Thousand Year Blood War arc, and through which Kubo revealed the true power of some characters. Although in reality, when we talk about this topic, there are other characters whose true power was revealed through other methods, and it turned out that they were fighting with a small portion of their strength, like Zaraki Kinpachi, who after fighting Unohara in their first battle sealed his strength without knowing it, and so he continued to fight for centuries with a sealed power and with a sword without a Shikai or Bankai. But during his second battle he regained his strength. He connected to his Zanpakuto, which enabled him to activate his Shikai and Bankai. However, there are three Shinigami whose Bankai was upgraded in a way that has a kind of similarity. Especially when we know that all the three were fighting with Bankai. I wouldn't say it was weak, but to be more accurate, it was an incomplete Bankai. And these three are Renji, Ichigo and also Toshiro. So let's begin guys by talking about how each one of them was fighting so that we can see the similarities. If we come to Ichigo, from the beginning, there were several unusual things happened to him and made him not fight with his full power. The first of which was the presence of the Osan or the Quincy power inside him, which took the form of Yhwach 1,000 years ago. The Osan didn't want Ichigo to become a Shinigami, so he worked on suppressing his Shinigami power. Secondly, Ichigo's Shinigami power was also not normal. Rather, it was combined with the power of the Hollow, which also wasn't normal since White in his nature was completely like the Asawachi. Therefore, all of these factors made Ichigo become a Shinigami without knowing anything about his power and how it works, especially since the Osan was the one who controlled Ichigo's power resources and didn't tell him the truth. This truth would have made Ichigo fight with all his powers from the beginning. And therefore, throughout many chapters, Ichigo continued to fight with only small parts of his power until Ichigo ascended to the Royal Palace, and there everything has changed. The Osan revealed the full truth to Ichigo and gave him the real Zanpakuto, which moved Ichigo to another level of power, where he could use his full power, whether in the Shikai or Bankai, and so that Ichigo's power changed completely, whether in form or power. The form of the old Bankai is no longer the same as it is in the real Bankai. It is true that until now we don't have sufficient data about the power of Ichigo's true Bankai, but what can be said is that the true communication between the Shinigami and his Zanpakuto is one of the main keys in order to benefit the full power of the Zanpakuto, and without it the Shinigami may spend half his life fighting with half his strength. Perhaps the following example illustrates this. Renji, like Ichigo, was fighting with an incomplete Bankai. It is true that Renji didn't have any power other than his Shinigami power, but also his Zanpakuto didn't tell him a truth, which is the full name of his Bankai, rather half of it, meaning that when Renji was able to embody his Zanpakuto outside his inner world and he was able to reach the Bankai stage, the name his Zanpakuto gave him was Hiyu. And as you know, Renji's Zanpakuto is two creatures, a monkey and a snake, and each of them is considered a king. But for some reason the Zanpakuto told Renji half of the name of the Bankai, or in other words the name of one being, which is the king of the baboon, so that whenever Renji releases the Bankai he says Hiyu, meaning the baboon king, without saying the other half, which is the snake king. And as you know, the names in the story of Bleach play a major role in the power of the techniques. Therefore, not mentioning the full name of the Bankai would have deprived Renji of a great power, and I find this to be one of the major points in common between both Ichigo and Renji. The Osan didn't tell Ichigo the full truth about his powers. The same thing was done by Renji's Zanpakuto. They didn't tell him the full truth about the name of the Bankai. Therefore, they both continued to fight with part of their power. Unlike Ichigo, Renji discovered this truth in the Royal Palace. For Ichigo, Nimaya was the direct reason for discovering the identity of the Osan. As for Renji, as we have seen, it was Ichigo who told him the truth, and that his Zanpakuto didn't give him the full name of the Bankai. And here I wonder, if Renji hadn't gone to the Royal Palace, would he have known this truth? In fact, it's difficult to know this because Renji spent 17 months training after the end of the battle with Aizen, and he thought that he has grown stronger and that he has reached the point where he is able to fight characters like Aizen's level. But in reality, he was dreaming, to the point that even his Zanpakuto didn't tell him the full name of the Bankai. Therefore, Renji can be considered a lucky person that he got the chance to go to the royal palace and benefit from the presence of someone like Ichigo, who enabled him to know the full name and thus obtain the Bankai and its real power. We know that the name of his real Bankai is Sohu, meaning the two kings. Thus, as we saw, Renji became at another level of power, and the real Bankai gave him power enough to eliminate masculine with ease. And here we will move to the last Bankai, Daigoin Hyurimaro. And as I said about Ichigo and Renji, it can be said about Toshiro that he also was fighting with an incomplete Bankai. But here there are differences between Toshiro and the rest, and it lies in the fact that, unlike others, he had good communication with Hyurimaro. It is enough to know that Hyurimaro tried to call him and contact him before Toshiro even obtained a Sauchi. Therefore, that special relationship with Hyurimaro enabled Toshiro to be a miracle in himself, so that he was able to get the Bankai before he even entered the Gotei 13. And as we said, unlike Renji and Ichigo, Toshiro was able to communicate with Hyurimaro and obtain many techniques. But Toshiro's main problem was that his body was still small to bear all of these techniques and power, the power of the strongest Eye Zanpakuto in the story. Therefore, he spends months training in order to bring out the power of Daigoin Hyurimaro in its complete form. And here I find the biggest difference between him and Renji and Ichigo. Renji and Ichigo didn't discover the true power of their Bankai through their own training. No. But this was done through the intervention of a second party, which was their going to the royal palace, and as we have said, Ichigo went to Nimaya and Renji went to Ichibi, and there they knew the true power of their Bankai. But Toshiro, it was a different story. No, he spent days and months training in that cave and maybe other places until he was able to summon the complete Bankai, the complete Daigoin Hyurimaro. But it requires for him to be taller than the short version of him. So that's why I like Toshiro. I know that he hasn't got a chance to show us this huge power that he has, but I like Renji or Ichigo, especially Renji, who got that boost from the royal palace, or the same thing can be said about Rukia. But Toshiro, as I said, it wasn't like that. So guys, what do you think about these three? Do you have other cases I had mentioned? Tell me in the comments and see you guys in my next video.